Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sure.
yeah, so we are live. Hi everyone. I am Deyasini Roy, and I welcome you all to the stories of cultural identity and ideology, food and drinks, and TMYS Reviews September 2022 project in association with the York Center for Asian Research, York University, Canada. We are seeking submissions in the form of essays, stories, and poems to know more about the architecture of our presently ongoing projects. Please visit our website www.tellmeyourstory.biz. So, before I move on to introduce the panelists and the topic, I would like to begin by saying that the importance of cooking as a survivalist intervention cannot be underestimated. Evolution from our ancestors found the benefits of learning to cook and used it as a survival tactic when resources were scarce during any natural disaster, an extended emergency, or apocalypse. So, to reinforce the statement that nourishment is indispensable for survival and for maintaining wellness and energy. So, today we will be delving into another aspect of cooking, but from a survivalist standpoint, and also talk about the bigger processes that go into it and the role it kind of plays in forming our identity. So, the topic of our digital conversation today is home cooking the self from hunger to hope, a survivalist intervention? And we are extremely privileged to have amongst us Dr. Atul Gokhale, Dr. Bhupesh Kumar, and Dr. Ranjini Rao this evening, who, through their years of diverse experience, are experts in this field of discussion. So, before we move on to hear and engage with our speakers, I would like to quickly introduce them. Ranjini is a writer and communications professor based in Bangalore. She's passionate about food, culture, cross cultural communication, food justice, and sustainability. Her work has appeared on Atma's South China Morning Post, Goya Journal, The Hindu, and among others, and she is the author of 6 books. She runs the food and travel blog Tarka Pasta with her partner and is passionate about sustainable living and open education. We welcome you, ma'am, to today's discussion. We also have Professor Atul Gokhale joining us today. He is presently the director, Symbiosis School of Culinary Arts at Symbiosis International University, Pune, and an accomplished hospitality educationist with 34 years of experience in the teaching, administration, and hospitality industry. Currently, he heads the Pioneer and Unique Culinary School. He is pursuing his doctoral study in culinary education, and his subject areas are food history, food sociology, food anthropology, apart from specializations in Italian and Indian cuisine. He has done research work in the areas of Vedic and regional Indian cuisine, food history, food flavors, textures, taste and aroma, and recipe development. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We also have Dr. Bhupesh Kumar joining us today. He is the Principal Institute of Hotel Management, Catering Technology, and Applied Nutrition, Ranchi. He has completed his PhD in tourism and hospitality discipline on crisis management in hotels from IGNOU, He's having a good experience of 21 years in academics and training and a vast experience in placement and training of hotel management students and hospitality research. He is an ex-chief editor of Indian Journal of Applied Hospitality and Tourism Research, a reputed journal of the hospitality industry in India. Also, he is an expert in acronyms. His activities include housekeeping and food management. We welcome you, sir, to today's discussion. And without further ado, I would now like to invite Professor Rao to share her insights on the topic. Over to you, Professor.
Hi, I'm so sorry. My apologies. I've been having a flaky network connection. I think I've been going off and on. My apologies to everybody, and thank you for having me here. I feel privileged to be amongst such illustrious company. Um,
Our
so,
pleasure having you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
thank you for having me. Um, well, I would just like to say, just a few things, share a few thoughts on the topic. Um, we're talking about home cooking, right? And how culturally it grounds us. And so I feel, um hello, can you hear me?
Continue. You are like, we can see you. This is the solo layout. Please continue.
Okay, I see. Um, Yeah, so I find it difficult always to think of home cooking in isolation as an isolated activity. I always consider it a multidisciplinary activity where a lot of things come together in order to, put the food on the table. So the farm to table concept, which has been revived in the past, I think, decade, at least here in India, as well as the West, I would say isn't new. I think it's new again to be apt. That's how our ancestors worked. They, in fact, were so much more closely aligned with the circadian rhythms and the ecosystem around us than we are. So I think cooking cannot be thought of in isolation. I don't think cooking is a skill that only refers to putting together of ingredients and preparing something to consume. I think the process of cooking itself starts with the relationship of man and the ecosystem, right? You start growing your own food. You start from the soil, basically. So that's where that's how you integrate the entire process of cooking. And that's where not only do you find yourself somewhat within the rhythm of this whole ecosystem to the kitchen journey, but also I think finding a balance between us and nature, that's also an inherent part of cooking. So I think home cooking is a life skill which is underrated. I think children in school should be taught how to grow their own vegetables. They should be taught the importance of nutrition. They should be taught the importance of how to eat what you eat. No, it's not just about how much money you've paid for that block of cheese or for that ripe tomato, but it's also about whether you're eating it in the right manner, whether you're eating it at the right time, and also how aligned are you with the time of the time and space of your surroundings. They say, at least in the Waldorf education system, they say you rise with the sun and you go down with the sun. So I think that's a very nice simple way to introduce children to following a proper routine when it comes to food, and teaching them how to forage, grow food, or forage for food in their surroundings, and then how you end up, what is the process of putting together these ingredients, the symmetry of these ingredients, how they all come together. Each ingredient has a different bearing on the human body. So I think this integrates so many subjects. Actually, it integrates agriculture, biology, environmental studies, chemistry, physics, how ingredients come and play with each other. What ingredients pair well, what ingredients are sort of forbidden or to be paired together. For example, in terms of pungency, garlic and asafoetida are often not paired together in the same dish. So I think simple things like this, but when you look at it in a more holistic way, I think it's the coming together of several subjects, several skill
Yeah.
sets, and so I would like to look at cooking or home cooking in this manner, and not through the lens of it being a skill that everybody needs to learn. For that, you can even just teach, buy some ask someone to buy a loaf of bread and just teach them how to toast it and put peanut butter on it and survive. So I don't think the survivalist lens is what I would like to take. I would like to look at cooking as a multidisciplinary activity, which requires several skill sets, and it not only helps you survive, but it also helps your environment survive and thrive. So yeah, that's something that I would like to share today.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was a quite enriching take on the topic of today's discussion. Moving on, I would now like to hand it over to Professor Gokhale to present his perspectives on the topic in discussion. So, over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Deviyashi. And my name is Atul Gokhale, if you just pronounce it that way.
Okay,
Not,
okay. I'm so
yeah,
sorry.
not an issue at all. It's just
Okay,
the pronunciation.
okay.
Good evening, and thank you for having me on this particular panel discussion. A very interesting take has been taken by Professor Rajni over here. But I would just go into a little more into the historical aspects of food and its relation with the humanity, the civilization. And they basically go back, as we say, survival. Survival is a basic instinct that humans have. And from time immemorial, from maybe the prehistoric periods where we were more of hunters and gatherers, where maybe the food was only what was available, and foraging that and hunting that and taking it into eating, to then discovery of fire, and then a discovery of cooking using fire, and then maybe the growth of humanity into from into an agricultural society, domesticating the agriculture, domesticating the plants and different types of crops. We have come a long way to where we are today. And survival instinct has never gone from our DNAs. And today also, I will take a example of recent times when we were stuck with an untimely pandemic in 2020.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a live example where one of our directors of our sister institution in Symbiosis was very much concerned that the students who are in internships, who are at different places, stuck alone, and then suddenly they realize that they don't know how to cook. And there was an urgent need for them to learn, even to maybe simple things like prepare a dal or a rice. So home cooking, instead of it being only looked at by people as part of our for pleasure, it is also an instinct which is there required for every individual. It's a life skill, and I
True.
take it that way.
True.
Uh, and looking at the home cooking aspect of it, India's home cooking, and I would say why I would say this is because it is an art which is predefined, and it has been passed on from generations to generations over a period of time without having any documented evidences that the way the food needs to be cooked in and what are the principles to be followed. But our Vedas, our Ayurveda, has incorporated the basic needs and the requirements of how to go about cooking your food into every single home. And that you would see that till the advent of the modern cooking equipments, cooking methodologies, or maybe globalization, which made ingredients available, we were always restricted to what was local, what was available, what was seasonal, and that defined our cuisine. Every single home would only be survive on what was seasonal, what was local, and what was needed and what was required by our bodies, and that's how it has survived. Over the last 200 years, the things, of course, have changed drastically with modernization and where we are today. From an urban point of view, we will look at it. But if you go to even the rural houses, things are changing drastically and fast. um, I give my out of my experience one of the survival instinct which probably people from the East India could relate to, and I go back to the two famines which stuck in 1800s and early 1900s in Bengal and Bihar. And if you would go back, I fortunately was posted in one of the areas which was stuck with famine early 90s, and there was a community by the name of Mushahars,
Okay.
and I got a chance to interact with them where generally I would go and talk to them why they were called such people by Mushahars. So the local people, in fact, they themselves came out and told that Mushahar means somebody who eats rats, catches and eats rats. And it was really a curious thing to find out as to what and why it happened. Why would people leaving the normal food available on the plate on the in the market, you would go to catch rats? And the history goes back again to the time when it was an survival instinct. During the famines, food was not available, not plenty, and there were people who then specialized into going into fields and catching rats and making their food out of it. And that's how these particular community was more into what we call as mushahars. So there are plenty of such reasons, plenty of such instances where communities have taken to food being a survivalist instinct rather than just being a pleasurable instinct for cooking. And that's my take. I mean, I would like to talk about it later, more detail. Over to you.
So thank you so much, sir, for that extremely informative and persuasive talk. So, Professor Kumar, we look forward to hearing your perspectives on the topic of today's discussion. I open the floor to you.
Namaskar to all present here, and thank you, Deyasini, to give me such an opportunity, basically to share my ideas. Now, taking a cue from what Dr. Rajni has to say and Professor Gokhale, they are both experienced and rightly said by them. And it is very apt to the topic what we are discussing about self hunger, home cooking to home cooking as a hunger to hope. Now, talking about what we are saying about during the last 2 years of pandemic, or talking about the drought situation in Bihar, as Professor said, uh, the generation for whom we are discussing this and where this event is basically focused for, not only those drought situation or pandemic or something like that way. Now the habitual hunger is also there, and which is very debilitating. Why? What happens? The generation nowadays, their eating habits have changed, and rightly says by Professor Gokhale, where the students have gone during their internship and they realize that time they don't know how to cook because they are dependent on others. And the other way, if we recall what has happened during the pandemic when the 100% lockdown was there and we were not allowed to move out, I think we have enjoyed the most delicious foods of the world during that time, because whatever was available at home and what has been cooked, it were all were new delicious items, and the whole family was together, so the experience was different. Otherwise, what happened, we follow the crowd, and what everybody is eating every day, the same lifestyle was there every day, the same routine was there, so same thing were cooked, so we were habituated to it. And that is how the young generation, their food habits have changed. What is required is not been ate by them, but what is being the market trend, what is being liked by their peer group, or what is being promoted by the market, uh, they are going to it. And what has happened due to that? The basically what has happened, the uh, body is getting starved, which we are not realizing. The body is basically, it is starting more and to absorb more and more sugars from the food items, and it is destroying our metabolism. And there is no longer boost of the right mood or the motivating, or your system, the organ inside, to do the work for the right digestion, the digestion system what we talked about. And what we are doing, basically what is happening, the generation is surrendering to a starvation, which nobody is realizing. And this is nutrition starvation, what I say. So the topic what we are talking about, home cooking, the self from hunger to hope, definitely uh, it is there. And when we will start our panel discussion, when Destiny will take it ahead, I'll contribute to it more. So Destiny, I hand over the mic to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderfully engaging talk. So, moving on to the question and answer segment, my first question is for Dr. Ranjini Rao. So, ma'am, cookery is an art that requires instinct and taste rather than exact measurements, as the saying goes. But at times it becomes sloppy science and one affords to learn through trials and errors. So there's no denying the fact that kitchen is undoubtedly a sacred space where you experience an awakening with the vast variety of spices, its meldings and mergings and effusions of new gastronomic forms. How important, therefore, do you think it is to realize the importance of this place for survival? Over to you, ma'am.
Sure. Yeah. So that's a multi-layered question, I think, and it's a very well thought out question. I
Thank
would like to, take some inputs from both the professors, because I think it's very apt for this answer. One is that cooking is definitely, historically speaking, cooking has come in handy as a survival skill. There is absolutely no doubt, especially in times of
you.
need, when and also it's also about who we are catering to at the moment. What is our target audience, and how do our thoughts or our opinions influence them, the future generations? um,
Yeah.
so, if I were to dig into my own personal history, since we're talking about also individualistic, realizations through the art of cooking,
Yeah.
I can safely say that my grandmother, because traditions and rituals and
Yeah.
practices about cooking are often handed down from one generation to another. So, grandmother, mother. I also wrote a memoir dedicated to my mom, whom I lost. To cancer. And so I think most of my culinary skills, or the instincts in me that have been sharpened over the years or whetted over the years, they've come from just being at the elbow of my grandmother and mother and observing how they functioned in the kitchen. So they definitely played into the side of survivalism when it came to cooking, because not only at any given point of the year were they prepared to feed their family, but they were also prepared to feed a few other families, because back then, back in the day, we didn't make appointments to visit people. We often had visitors, and also there were times when certain ingredients were scarce. and we've always preserved foods through seasons, right? We literally bottle fruits and vegetables, we bottle an entire season so that it lasts another season. For example, we've done sun-dried tomatoes just as much as the Italians have, right? They use it on pizza, but we use it to sour up our curries. Or we've done shortcuts and prep work, not just for tomorrow or day after tomorrow, but for entire seasons. We've preserved pickles. We've There are times when certain ingredients are not available, so we use shortcuts. We use, for example, if you make something with a pickle spice, then we call it achari aloo or something. We're just scooping out a little bit of pickle. So I even make I'm a big fan of mixing cuisines, and I use my own culinary instincts, but I'm a big fan of taking a Western cuisine and Indianizing it. So I make an Italian salad with amka achar as the dressing,
Okay.
or amla ka achar. So I put
Okay.
a scoop of that masala of the thing, and then I water it down with a little bit of peanut oil, and I, add a few fixings, and I make that into a delicious salad. So I think all of these instincts, they're all survival instincts if you examine them closely. They're not for pomp and show. They're not for not all home cooks anyway have written cookbooks, or not all home cooks get the chance to speak on a panel, but their knowledge is so much more insightful and probably more meaningful than us. But I think what binds us all of us, irrespective of our ages and the cultures and the backgrounds that we come from, is the fact that we all somewhere know what our grandmothers did to feed the
Absolutely.
hungry lot of people who visited
Yes.
unannounced, right? So I
Yes.
think, as an instinct, yeah, it's definitely something that you learn over a period of time through trials and errors and all of that. But somehow I think unknowingly, sort of like a cooking compass is instilled in all of us as we grow in an Indian household, or any part of the world for that matter. Especially if families, we come from, collectivist communities where, we tend to care for the community and we eat together as a community. If that's in practice in any part of the world, then it's very natural that the children automatically grow up with these instincts sort of instilled in them. And suddenly, when they're out to college or staying in a hostel or stuck during the pandemic, like Professor Gokhale was saying, they will find their way, with a little bit of nudging and a little bit of guidance, they will be able to survive. So I think that the survival aspect of cooking is not just in dire situations, but it's also, for example, women who didn't have careers, like my grandmother. She possibly had a lot of dreams and desires, but uh, she could only survive by finding her identity in the kitchen. So even in that sense, it's a survivalist mechanism, because there isn't much else for her to do but support the family, support her husband, and these are truths. One
Right.
can argue about this and say that, oh, how can you, I'm sure feminists would be up in arms about this, but this is a true fact, that my own grandmother or my own mother wanted to be a doctor, but her father couldn't afford to put her through medical school. So she, in fact, found her bearing in the kitchen. So in that way, it helped her survive, right? As well as, in my memoir also I write about this. Just like cooking cannot be seen in isolation as a single skill, as a single skill set, so can the kitchen also not be looked at as a space where only food is cooked. Because
True.
I grew up in a kitchen where my mom was knitting sweaters while the milk boiled, and she was listening to music while she made the dosas, or there were so many things that happened in conjunction with the cooking, there was music riyaz. My mom was a musician, so we did our riyaz every morning in the kitchen while the coffee was brewing and the milk was boiling. There were hidden stashes of cookies or hidden stashes of money, in fact, that was apportioned for people's birthday presents, that was stashed away in some corner of the kitchen. So I think all of this comes together beautifully, synchronously, to make the kitchen a space for survival for generations of women in our country, as well as survival of the community itself. Yeah, so that's
That's
my
true.
take on this. I hope I have adequately answered your question,
Yes, you
Deyasini.
did. Yes, you did,
Over to
ma'am.
you.
And you have done it so well. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for that very
Thank
rich
you.
answer. Well, moving on to Dr. Bhupesh Kumar. So, sir, cooking, what I feel is just the tip of the iceberg. Because if we dig into it, we can see that there's the bigger idea of production, adapting to the situation you find yourself in, and also overcoming obstacles to survive. So, what would be your message to the young generation to best ensure their sustenance in dire circumstances? Over
Thank
to
you,
you, sir.
Deyasini. Thank you, Deyasini. Before starting, the full marks goes to Ranjini ji. You have given a right start to the discussion, and obviously, a female only can justify this because yes, the real playground for you all for the
I probably will
survival is
differ,
the
Dr.
kitchen
Bhupesh. I'll
only.
intervene. I will differ with this because men are also adapt to what we call it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll come back to that later. Sorry.
You couldn't basically read into my full line. What I said, from generations, female have this their playground. The kitchen is their playground for the survival. What I was completing
Sure,
with my
sure.
line. So
Surely.
those issues. Now, starting with the question is, what Destiny has put a question to me, how the young generations can survive in dire consequences. See, survival is not a big problem. The problem is an empty stomach, because it is not good practice for anyone. It has never been advised. So, wherever, whatsoever situation you are in, first we need to learn it is our psychology which decides if this food is tasty or not, if this food is good or not, if it is healthy for me or not. When you ask a cook, basically, see, this cooking, as rightly said by you, so it is an art, but it is 99%. If it is 99% art, then the science is also there, that 1% is there, right? So, and this profession, the cooking as a profession, nobody can select it that I want to become a chef or something like that way. If it doesn't want to accept it, it will not accept you. This is a profession which normally selects its own connoisseurs. Now, coming to the home cooking, for that you need not be a big scientist or an artist who is making an idol or a poster or like that way. It is once you have to stay there, rightly said by Ranjini, like enjoy the music, enjoy in whatsoever you are doing, enjoy the laugh of the morning you are having, and just whatever is there in the kitchen, just have a look over it, do the little experiments, whatever will come out, it would be the best. I tell you, it would be best out of the chain. Just the restaurants or dhaba wala cannot give you the satisfaction what it will come out when you are playing with those utensils and the raw materials, whatever is visible to you in the kitchen. And the second thing is that best advisory is have that will help you to connect with the nature also, to have your own kitchen garden. I suggest this to all young generations. rather than wasting their time in playing PUBGs and all those. The better you play at your home, in your home garden. Just you have to give an hour in the morning and around 20 minutes or so in the evening. That's more than enough. Whatever you have grown and you bring it to your kitchen, I definitely say it will be the most beautiful item on this earth to cook and eat. You will yourself like it. आपको आपकी मदर को या पेरेंट्स को या रिलेटिव्स को कन्विंस करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी कि ये खा लो, ये आपके लिए अच्छा है. And at the same time, that sense of achievement when you grow something, and when it comes out in lovely colors, lovely shape, you feel like you have achieved something, the sense of achievement. And obviously when you'll cook it, that extra thing will go into it. And whatever you want to add as an ingredient, the spices are there available in your kitchen trays, other items are there. पहला दिन होगा कि पूछना पड़ेगा किचन में. You have to ask in the kitchen, or take the help of your mother or whosoever is in charge of the kitchen, where the things kept, where what are their location. And once you start, nobody is going to interfere in your music. That is your music. Those sounds of the utensils, it would be a music in itself, the rock, the jazz, the pop, whatever you say. And whatever the outcome would be, whatever there would be on the plate, it would be one of the tastiest thing which even a master chef in this world would not have cooked ever. So in dire situations, when you find that, I like, for example, I'll just quote the example of the latest pandemic, when there was a lockdown, when we were not been allowed to go to the market. So whatever you wanted, it was not available. Only the essential items which might have been at your home or might was available at the neighborhood grocer shop, or a vegetable seller who comes to your area, might be they would have brought in whatever they could got that time. Just enjoy that game. I'll say it's a game. Yes, it's an art. Playing a game is also an art. Just enjoy it. Whatever you get, don't decide over it. I want pizza. Just take burger only. Everything can be a pizza for you. Just whatever the ingredients are there, start playing with them. Not playing means I'm not talking about throwing them here and there. I'm talking about the cooking step by step. Start playing with that. Make a rule game. Level 1, I have to cook it this item today. Level 2, I'll go for 2 items today. And level 3, I'll improve whatever I have cooked last 2 days. Like that way, this would be your labels of the game. So, because see what is happening, if you go to the real world today, few of the poorest of the country, they don't have, the food surplus is there, but they don't have that infrastructure to make it available to the population which is dying out of starvation. So think of their situation. Whatever they see through, whatever they feel like can be eaten, rightly said by Professor Atul, like musas, whatever they felt like that this can be eaten, and they just use that available rats to survive. So I'm not talking about eating rats or something like that. What I'm saying that now at your kitchen, basically, who are our audience today, who are using the Facebook, who are seeing the live session today, I'm talking to them. I'm talking to that audience which is who are listening to us. What, there are many things available here in the kitchen. There is no scarcity of item, and whatever the dire situation is, whatsoever it may come, 15 days, a month, 2 month, 3 month, or might be you are going for an adventure camp due to weather condition, you are being stuck up somewhere, or you have gone for a tourism, or you have gone for some important work also, and you have stuck somewhere coming out of the your own home kitchen. Still, whatever is there, just look into the nature, start cooking, you'll find the best dish out of it. So that is my take to the younger generation. that it is very much possible to enjoy whatever it is with us. Once you cook it, when you are hungry, there is an idiom in our Hindi that भूख में चना भी जलेबी लगता है. When you are hungry, even that this chickpeas, when you cook it and you eat it, it is just like the jalebi and Indian sweet. So that is my say. Just don't be empty stomach. Don't let that hunger take you to the starvation. Whatsoever it is available in the kitchen, wherever you are, in your home or anywhere, just try it. Anything will come out would be the best, and you may challenge a master chef out of it. That's what I think.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir, for that really wonderful answer. I would now move on to Professor Gokhale. So, Arjun Appadurai once remarked, food can be used to mark and create relations of equality, intimacy, or solidarity, or instead to uphold relations signaling rank, distance, or segmentation. So, considering the lines of partition, how do you see this evolution that is now trying to forge a common identity through a gastronomic blend? Over to you, Professor.
Thank you, Deyasini. And interesting question. In fact, the famed Indo-American anthropologist Appadurai, Arjun Appadurai, has seen the best of the both worlds. He studied in India. He's seen the way Indians have grown and have his anthropological perspective on food, and maybe the class within the classification within the cooking or kitchens, or equality within or inequality within them. He's seen it from the Indian point of view, and also he has studied more from the American point of view, being there and making his life over there right now. I'll again go back to the few historical aspect. Deyasini, is uh, if you see again, it's in the instinct of our DNA. When we grew as civilization thousands and lakhs of millions of years ago, as humanity, as the Homo sapiens, maybe 50, 70, 80,000 years ago, the initial purpose of us was to survive. And survival instinct came through hunting and gathering food. And the between the two sexes, the men were stronger, and they could go out and kill bigger animals, hunt, forage, bring things which could be loaded on themselves, and then bring it back home. Whereas the counterpart, females were more of somebody who could in terms of bearing children, and also using that food which was bought back home, dividing it amongst the community, amongst family. It wouldn't call it family. They was if it is believed that they used to live in small communities, and they started doing things that has survived, and that has given what we today call as the segmentation or rank classification amongst us. And over a period of time, this has held true because women of the house was more involved into growing children and managing things, whereas the men were more fending and getting food for everybody, for the family. Now, coming to today, I'll give you my example, another one. Uh, if you look at my background, we were three brothers in a family of five, and mom would be the only person who would be in the kitchen and would cook. Somebody had to assist, somebody had to do things. There was no sister of us who could go and help in traditional way, if you would see. So it was probably, it fell on me, being in the middle of the all three siblings. I had to help her out, and probably the interest grew from there. So today, as a chef, I've grown because of my interest being developed, as rightly said by Professor Rajni, being at the elbow of your mom or of your family, of your grandmom or somebody, you could actually learn things by observing. So when we say today in modern world, the equality or inequality, it depends from homes to home. And from region to region, urban and then, the rural part of it. And that is why the partition distinctively was there intrinsically in the DNAs, but now those lines are getting blurred. If you see the modern homes, men would equally be interested to actually cook and impress. And it is said, the as it is rightly said, the way to the woman's heart is through her stomach. So basically, a man can impress a woman by doing and cooking well, and probably that would it will hold true for both sides. But today, even the men generally do impress by cooking. From an urban point of view, for survivalist instinct, I'll give you another example of any migrant population. I mean, since I've lived in the Gulf, I've seen a lot of Indians who live by themselves, men. And over there, they do not have the facility of canteens or messes or home cooking like that they do it at homes. And again, there another issue is basically to save money. So they are left upon, and then they start cooking. The cooking is an art which is learned by compulsion over there for them, but it becomes a part of their life. Even if you look at back home in India, most of the migrant people, whether it's student floating population, working population, who are going to urban areas, most of the population, unless of course they can afford to eat out every day, go back to doing cooking on their home, and then they learn it. So the Appadurai statement of inequality, or rather, it is more of a partition between the classes, or who will do what. I don't think that will hold true as we go along and grow into the modern world. Probably it will still there in the rural areas. Probably it will still be there into the traditional homes. But still now, I think that lines are breaking up. And I would only say that as we go along, the intimacy towards cooking is growing for everyone. Enjoying food that has been a part of humanity, enjoying in a community, enjoying together, eating together has always been a part of our survival. We've never had to eat alone. That was never an instinct for humanity. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for that really wonderful answer. Like, what I wanted to say is that I have heard tales of my grandmother's agonizing displacement from Bangladesh. She was of my age, widowed, and she drove to Calcutta with her 4 children. So, how she cooked her way out of an untenable living situation using the kitchen as a refuge, creating deliciously satisfying meals out of nothing for her children is just another story that makes my jaw drop in awe. So, here I would like to know that, is cooking an escapism that momentarily casts away your pain? Or is it a reality to stay grounded and fight for your survival? And I think I would I would ask this to all of you. So, Professor, if you would begin. Professor Gokhale, if you would begin.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I think that's a quite a interesting take which you had taken. I mean, from your own family background, your grandmom had to
Yeah.
migrate, or rather escape from Bangladesh to come into India, and then I don't know whether it was because the situation demanded that she went on to cook or whether it was something else. But I would point out over here one important thing is that today many of the people who come to us, I lead a school of culinary arts. They come by choice. They love being in the kitchen, whether they are at the age of, I mean, when we interview the students for the profession, we only look at one important aspect. Are you really keen and interested in cooking? Because it is considered a kind of an thing where you cook for 4 5 hours and people eat it in next 15 20 minutes. So that's the kind of an outlook people generally have. अच्छा इतने 3 4 घंटे वहां पे किए हुए स्पेंड किया और ये 15 मिनट में खा के हाय हेलो करके चले गए. But then that is not the issue. People who love cooking, who have an interest, who love to play with the ingredients, with the interesting thing which they can develop. I find it very amusing that these aspirations of younger generation is way different than what I would have thought in my take. I've joined in because my mom said that you can become a chef, but did not know what would be entailing it into next 30 years. So where I am standing. But the youngsters who cook at 5 6 7 years old and then they come in that, oh, I've been cooking for 4 years, 5 years, I have an Instagram page, I've been doing this and that. That is an interest which is coming. So the way we are defining food today is going to be different than what was the earlier it was there. Globalization, availability at your fingertips of every single thing on this earth uh, is something which anybody can. I mean, again, the television, the people who have made difference to this profession, the food itself has come into fore. The profession itself has come into fore thanks to so many of the legendary chefs, including Sanjeev Kapoor in India, that the cooking is looked up as something as a profession or as an something as a hobby as well. We've got courses where women who, in their second innings of their life, after they have completed their job responsibilities at home, when children growing and now flying away from the nest, come back and say that we want to do and learn our baking skills and maybe we can want to become an home bakers. So I would say today it has taken a very different, altogether take, and that's what my point of view is on this question.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Professor Ranjini, what would be your take on this?
That was such a wonderful answer. I'm a little, you know, like I have no words at the moment. But I think that, cooking, like sport,
Yeah,
is possibly one of the most immersive activities.
absolutely.
So, for example, if you don't give your 100% to what you're doing in the kitchen, the results are going to be seen in a very short span of time, right? When the food gets to the table, people are going to complain that there's no salt or there's excess salt in it. Just as eating too, right? If you eat in a hurry or if you eat when you're upset, the food
Yeah.
doesn't sit well with your body. So I think the starting with the gut instincts that help you with the cooking itself, the process of cooking itself, to the microbe biomes in the gut that help digest the food, the immersion that is required, the dedication and the discipline that is required in order to cook in the kitchen. I think that I don't think it classifies either as an escapist activity or as entirely something that grounds you, because it's possible to dream while you're cooking, right? So I think it is an immersive activity, which means for the moment, this is my reality. These are the ingredients I have, and this is what I'm going to do with them. So I am the prime example, I think, of how cooking helped me get over my grief of having lost my mother.
Okay.
So it wasn't though until the pandemic struck that I had all this free time available to me to grieve and to, really understand the gravity of what had happened in my life. Although she didn't pass away during the pandemic, but I think life kept going on in its monotonous way. And I think suddenly I had all this time because I didn't have to commute to work and, things like that. So it is through cooking that I actually, rediscovered my own passion for the art, and rediscovered my mother and the memories of my mother in her kitchen. So I think it definitely takes, it's an activity that takes you away from all the stress that you're going through. In that sense, it is sort of, it takes you away a little bit, but it also, like you said, really anchors you to the moment, to the reality of the moment. um, Whether you're cooking to impress someone, or you're cooking for survival, or you're just cooking a meal for yourself or for hundreds of people, it doesn't matter. You have to be just as focused as you would be if you were an athlete, running for a gold medal. So I think um, discipline is something I didn't have this wisdom, I must say, when I was growing up, because I thought of cooking as I only enjoyed cooking fancy food. I didn't, because I didn't probably have the need to do the everyday cooking that keeps the family, together. The family, I think we all buy a bond over a meal, right?
Yeah.
Like Professor Gokhale was saying, even as a community, we've never had to eat alone. So even yesterday, actually, I was traveling, I was on a train, and I noticed that everyone had a gadget, right? But I
Yeah.
thought back to the days of my childhood when we would be on train journeys, and the first 15 minutes would just go in settling down, and then suddenly somebody would open up a packet of something, and that packet, irrespective of what religion or caste or part of the country that food stemmed from, it would just go around the train, around the compartment. People would dig in, people would share food, share conversations. So I think a lot of our shared meanings as a culture are to be derived from food. In fact,
Yeah,
most of our
very
rituals, everything is spun around the concept of food. Our festivities, food. We mourn somebody's passing away, it's
Yeah.
food,
Yeah.
right? We celebrate the birth of a new life, it's food. So, food is absolutely at the core of everything that we stand for as a culture. All our rituals are spun around the concept of food. So, definitely, it's a survivalist, skill, but it's also something that teaches you, and the discipline that that sort of gets honed on its own inside of you as you cook every day, or as you learn to cook and survive every single day. Over a period of time, you'll realize that you are, in fact, that discipline in fact is trickling down into other facets of your life.
true.
Because
Very
if you
true.
cook with a certain rhythm and rigmarole every day, then you're also on that bus or that cab or that train to your work in a disciplined way. And it sets the tone for various things. That's why you see that the kitchen is always bustling at the crack of dawn. This has been so even when people didn't have careers, right? Even if someone was just going to the farm to cull out the weeds, they would never send somebody out of the house without feeding them something, a porridge or a cup of tea, whatever it was. So
Absolutely.
that's why the kitchen is always bustling at the crack of dawn. And I think that sort of sets the tone for everything in your life. And that's something that I firmly believe in, and I've learned over the years through my own experience. So, yeah, definitely. This is what I would like to contribute in
So
terms of cooking.
thank you so much, ma'am, for such a rich answer. So, Professor Kumar, would you like to add anything to the
See,
conversation?
what Professor Ranjini has added, it is very apt. Because
Absolutely.
what your question was that you wanted to know if this is an escapism for that momentary issues, challenges, or the pain, or was it a fight for survival?
Yeah.
Uh, Rightly added by Ranjini ji earlier also, when we started this panel discussion, and right now also. See, you can see it both the way. Many a time, especially I'll talk about females. as per the history. I may not be a good historian, but whatever I have seen through, or what I have learned through, or what I have read through, it was the best place for them to avoid the situation, or to basically the pain from the inside, what they are going through, which they are not able to share with anyone during that moment. They found that escapism in the kitchen by cooking. That is one way. But the other way, rightly said by Anjani ji, that it is not an escapism. When you are in the kitchen, the moments you enjoy, or the sense of uh, I'll say that you feel relaxed or rejuvenate, re-energize, that comes in you when you are in the kitchen, and when you come out of the kitchen. So you can see it both the way. It is totally dependent on the situation. It is not that every time that is the escapism. It is many a time. It's a real playground to enjoy your. You can say the free time you have, or obviously for your day-to-day life also you need food. And rightly said by someone that through food you can reach to someone's heart. Food is the easiest way to reach to somebody's heart. So food is one thing, or the cooking is one thing, which is the best way to connect with one and everyone.
Absolutely.
And rightly said, even if there is a birthday at your home, or if you're one of your colleague or a friend who has achieved something, what is the first line we say? Chal yaar treat de. You ask for the treat only. So the food is there. When there is some sorrow, the grief in the home, what you do? You feed the society, your relatives, everyone. The food is being cooked, the food is being served. So what you say, from the birth till the death, food, for everything, the food has to be there. The marriage ceremony is there, the food has to be there. So the food is a part of our life. You cannot think without that. So obviously, when we talk about the food, the cooking comes in. So it is not only an escapism, but specific to the situation what you were talking about, your uh, home, your whatever happens faced by you as a family. So you thought of that, that was the situation when your mother found that place, your grandmother found that place as an place where she can hide her pain, or can get relief out of that pain by cooking. So yes, rightly said, it is situation to situation how you take it.
Yeah,
Cooking is.
absolutely. So we can't hear you.
I am over with. I just I
Okay,
spoke. Okay.
okay, okay. So, thank you so much, sir, for that wonderful answer. And I think we have come to the end of today's discussion, and I would like to thank each one of you for being with us today and share your valuable wisdom for our project. This is to state that we are seeking submissions in the form of stories, poems, and essays as part of a project. To know more, please visit www.tellmeastory.biz. So, we are coming up with a series of academic discussions to be live streamed on our page. Do not forget to stay tuned, and bye for today.
All the best for the project,
Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Thank
and
you
much.
so much,
Thank you.
sir.
best wishes for the
Thank,
participants also. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody. Really nice interacting and meeting all of you. And I hope we can
Pleasure.
carry our.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good evening. Bye.
Good evening.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye
Nice
bye.
meeting